All right, we're gonna get started. My name is Jake. I'm a partner at Fourlane. I've been with Fourlane for about 5 years now. It's the day before Thanksgiving, so thanks everyone for joining. So in today's session, we're gonna compare IES and the way that IES does projects with the way that Acumatica does projects. So if you're a construction company and you're weighing your options between should I go with IES or should I look at Acumatica, this is probably a great webinar for you to tune in on. Feel free to ask questions. I'll try to get to them at the end, but if not, I could always get back to you in an email. So this is the agenda for today's meeting. So at first, we're going to be looking at project accounting and IES, and then project accounting and Acumatica, and then I will be reviewing the system differences. So system differences will be more of the automation and AI features within Acumatica. All right, so we'll dive into IES. I'm just going to make sure that that's showing. So this is what IES looks like. There's a lot of features with IES, the multi-company and intercompany, but in this webinar, we're just going to be focusing on projects. So right here, you can see the project overview, and this is what the project dashboard looks like. So you can see the info based on payroll expenses, or you could toggle this and flip to hourly costs. You also have estimates versus actuals, project estimates, or sorry, project expenses, actual versus actual income versus your costs. And you could actually click down into this and go to reports. And this will take you to the detail behind this report. I'm going to go back here. So I've entered for this webinar some project budgets and some estimates. So that's why it's saying action to review here. So it's going to list your suggestions. And then this is your all projects list. So we have a gas line inspection and then a project that I created, but I'm going to drill down into this one. And you can see that it's categorized into summary first. So summary, this is the summary of the project. You can see gas line inspection is at the very top of the project. And notice you have your status. So you have not started, completed, and canceled. This project is in progress. And then your project progress is at 0%. So this is a field that you actually have to manually put in the percentage and to update that. It's not going to update that by itself. So you can say that this is at 30%. And then again, you have very similar dashboard function. Kind of looks like QuickBooks Online as well with the income, costs, and profit. So you have your income, and then you can view the details of that. Same with the costs, and then you get your profit. It also does budgeting and forecasts. So that's a pretty cool feature. If I go into view budget, I just put in like a little budget line here. So this is for preparation services, a unit cost and quantity, and then class. And then with IES, you also get dimensions. So concrete, earthwork, utilities are all dimensions that you can budget with. And then you have tasks. So I actually copied all these tasks from the project template. So when I do add project, you could actually add a task template. So if you have common denominators between your project, you don't have to manually create project tasks over and over again. You could just set up a template to add these. And then if I do edit, so I set this up, you can see that you can assign it to an employee. You can have a status, and then you can have a due date as well. And then you could also drag and drop your records at the task level here. The transactions tab are going to show all of the transactions that are out in the system that have the project captured. So if I look at I'll just look at this bill. So this bill shows, this is for concrete, but you can see the line detail, and then the gas line project is tagged right here. So that's where your project's going to be tagged. So, and then time activity, so you can enter time against the project. I'm gonna click on this one. Oops. Project reporting. So if I run a profitability report off this project, that's what this looks like. So everything's being captured in sales here. You still have the drill down functionality, cost of goods sold, and then everything to get you your net income. I'm going to run a estimates versus actual report, show that. And it's loading. Okay, here we go. So we have total actual costs in this column, and then you have your original estimated income in this column. And then if I drag this over, you can see profit and profit margin. So that's what an estimate versus actual report looks like in IES. I think that was it with, oh yeah, project cost detail. I want to show this one. So this goes by vendor, so you can see which vendors it was. That Concrete Depot one we just were on, so that's the bill for that, and it's going to show the amount there. But this is showing everything for all the projects. So I also have, this is my Jake project. That's a test project as well. So if I expand that, I can see the expense detail for that project. This is the project details. So this will be where you enter in your project name, your customer, the email, and then the start and end date. And then that project progress that I updated up here flows down to this field as well. And you also can drag and drop your attachments to this project. I'm going to go ahead and just enter in a project estimate just to show what that looks like. So here I have a project estimate. It's going to default to the project. And then I can just put in, I'm going to put in like $1,000 and then click save. And then you also have those dimensions up here. So you can also, and this will flow down to the profit and loss and the invoice. I'm going to click save on this. This is what the email view looks like, which I'm sure if you've used QuickBooks before, you're familiar with the way that this looks. This is what the payer view looks like, and then the PDF view. I'm going to go back here. And then if I wanted to, so if I wanted to send out the estimate, nothing's going to update on my income for this project. But if I go ahead and I enter in an invoice, so again, it's going to default my gas line inspection project, and I can enter in the invoice details here as well. If you want to report off of the project task, I would recommend maybe setting up a dimension to kind of mirror that, since you can't tag the project task on the line item, but you can make it a 1-for-1 to report on it that way. So this would flow into my income, and then I'm gonna do an expense. Demo is taking some time to load here. So this is where you tag the project. So I could tag my gas line inspection project at the expense level as well. So all of that is going to flow to my transactions, and then create my profit and loss for the project here. All right, so it was about halfway. I'm going to flip to Acumatica. So Acumatica looks a little bit different. Acumatica is completely browser-based. Chrome is a supported browser. And so this dashboard right here is showing, this is our demo environment, but this dashboard is showing the workflow. So as you can see, it can start with your employees entering a purchase order. It also flows to timesheets and expense reporting. And then all of that flows to the general ledger and projects. One of the big differences between IES and Acumatica is that Acumatica has a little bit more fields. It supports AIA invoicing, and it also has project billing and project allocation rules. So I know this is probably a new screen for you if this is the first time you've seen this, but this is just an example of a project. Acumatica also has templates. So when you're setting up a project, you could set it up off of a project quote or a project template, and it's going to fill in your tasks for you. So during the implementation, we try to determine what are the common denominators between projects, so it makes it easier when setting up those projects. You can notice that the revenue budget level, you can budget at the task level, or the task and cost code level, or the task and item level, or all of them. So this one just has the task and item level, and the same thing goes for the cost budget. The tasks are going to be a little bit more blown out with features than what you have in IES. So you could have your task ID. Sometimes I've seen, if this is like a construction site, you can have the task ID be buildings or even floors, and you can even segment the task ID to be building and floor. You have allocation rules and billing rules at the task level, and that's something that you don't have in IES. It really just has the start and end date in IES, and the status. Obviously, you have the status as well. But yeah, you also have the GL account level at the task level. And I know I said allocation and billing rule. I'm going to show an example of a billing rule. So in Acumatica, you can create, when we do the project setup, we create account groups, which are your GL account group buckets. And so in this example, if I want, I have to reload this. But essentially what you can do is create an invoice from a project billing rule and create markups. So you can see that the line amount formula is going to take what was in the GL account bucket and mark it up by 1.1%. And so you can get really creative and configure this to your business. I've seen a lot of extensive billing rules in Acumatica. An allocation rule is going to take something from one bucket, GL bucket, and put it into another. So in this one, you have a time and material allocation, and so expenses might be accumulated in this calculate billable labor bucket, and then you're going to send it to unrecognized revenue right here. And so you get to determine what the debit and the credit transaction is. So I worked with some construction companies. It took their month-end close process close to a week, and we were able to reduce the amount of time they were able to do month-end close with, I think it was like 3 allocation rules. So they were having to do pivot tables and creating journal entries off the pivot table. But with these allocation rules, you can really reduce the amount of time for month-end close, which is really cool. This is what a project dashboard looks like. So this is similar to IES in the fact that you're getting actuals to budget. You have pie charts. You can drill down right away from this report, and this might actually have to refresh. That's why I didn't drill down. But you also it supports iframes, so that's you can plug in, like if this was a job site, you can plug in the camera view right into the dashboard. And then the other thing that Acumatica has is you have project management. So project management is going to be your drawing logs, field report, photo logs, RFIs, all of that. Let's see, what else did I want to show here? So this is what the revenue budget looks like. Like I said, you can budget by project task and inventory ID. And then you have a little bit more buckets, and you'll see this on the WIP report with the projections, but you have revised budget, you have actual to budget, and then you have also pending invoices as well, and these retainage columns. And similar, this is pretty similar to the revenue budget, which is the cost budget. And so these balances, so these are all of our account groups in Acumatica. So you could see right away where things are in WIP. And then revenue. So if I highlight over these rows, I can then drill down into view transactions. And this is our demo, so it's running a little bit slower. I also have to refresh this. But it's going to show all the transactions that make up that bucket. So similar functionality to what you have in IES, where you can view transactions and then go down into the detail. So if I wanted to see what transactions make up my revenue, I can view transactions, and this is what it's showing. This is going to take me to my project transaction. But if I scroll over here, I could go down into the actual GL. So this will show me the debits and credits, and then I can view the source document. So this will take me to my AR. So I can see that this is an invoice and memo, and then you can see that project is tagged right here. One of the things to also show is you have sub-accounts. So these are kind of like your classes or dimensions in IES, but you also can tag the project task. So you can report off the project tasks a lot easier in Acumatica than you can in IES. Flipping back here. So these are our commitments to the project. So if we had purchase orders or subcontracts, they would appear here. Acumatica does support the Procore integration out of the box. So that's a nice feature. And let me just show the AIA invoice. So this is a project that was AIA. So I'm just going to show you what that AIA report looks like. So I went to, it's going to take a couple seconds to load because I had these preloaded, but I went to the invoice tab and I clicked on AIA report, and so it produces this AIA report right out of the box. And then this is what the schedule looks like. Oops, that is not what the schedule looks like. Just had to refresh here. I'm actually have to just trying to run this before, so it was a little bit faster. But it does give the AIA schedule. I have gotten this question before. The question was, can you tag multiple, like have multiple customers for one project in Acumatica? And the answer to that question is yes. We have this toggle right here. So you can restrict the project selection to only customer projects, so customers that are assigned to that project, or you can open it up to all projects. And so that, if I go back to my project screen here, so that's what this is. Usually there's one customer per project, but you can open it up if you have multiple customers that need to be tagged for one project. This is what a project profitability report looks like. So you have the project on the left-hand side, and then our buckets of income, expenses, and profit margin. And then this is what a WIP report looks like. So I said that there are more buckets in Acumatica than in IES. So this is kind of what I was referring to. You have contract amounts, you have estimated costs, commitments, and then you also have projected costs as well. So these forecasted amounts. That's what the WIP report looks like. And then the last thing I wanted to show, some of the system differences between not just Acumatica and IES, but also NetSuite. If you're looking at NetSuite, is Acumatica has what we call business events. In a business event, basically, is anything in Acumatica that you want to, it's almost like a domino effect. So anything that you want to trigger, it can basically create an automation to create, whether that's a GL entry, or we've seen customers send reports, or basically make any automation just right out of Acumatica. So in this example, this is an example of a business event notification. So any new invoices that get added to the system, and I think it says that the due date has to be within 15 days, and it's going to trigger an email. So you can configure the email template out of the system of what data that pulls from. We've set up a lot of business events for our clients. We had one instance where we're uploading AR data into Acumatica, and there was a series of like 5 business events that create the invoice with the business event. It creates the payment, and then we had the customer's approval to authorize and capture credit cards. So it did all of that along with emailing a credit card receipt to their customer, and that was all automated. So it really reduced the work of their AR clerk. But I've also worked with construction companies where we map out their workflow and make it like a decision chart. And then based on like if the customer says yes or no to the proposal, if they say yes, it's automatically just going to create the project with specific project tasks. And then we can create even more automation off of the billing and allocation rules. So you get a little bit more, I would say a lot more automation features with Acumatica, and it's getting more AI focused as well. So you'll see that in the new rollouts. Yep, so this is what the email template looks like. You can see we put in the customer account name, so that's just gonna basically populate based on who the customer is, and then the invoice and due date fields. This does go off of an ad hoc query, so any fields that you don't see that you want on this email, you can easily add to the report and then just add it to the email right here. So makes it pretty easy. We have CFOs and CEOs who want daily reports being sent to their email. So this is one mechanism that we can do that. We can also create records, and I'm just going to show that with an import scenario. So we use this tool when entering Open AP and AR in Acumatica, but I'm just going to show you a little test. So you can basically, once you set up that initial ad hoc query, you can use that as a data source in Acumatica. And if I wanted to set up a project, I'm just going to enter the project screen here. And then this would be the results of the ad hoc query. And then you can actually tell Acumatica how to enter the data. So everything that you're seeing here are the fields on my project screen. And then everything that's the source or field is the field from the actual report. So I know this example doesn't make exact sense because this is looking at AR data and I'm showing you the project screen, but if you were to just imagine that this report was project data, this is how we can basically automate the creation of a project. So, and you could do that with any data source and any screen in Acumatica, making it a really powerful automation tool. All right, so that's everything that I prepared for this webinar. Hopefully that gave you some insight on the differences between IES and Acumatica projects. Thank you so much for joining.